I'll tell you something strange happened a few days ago. I got this booking from a creative writer. Okay, a writer who makes a living as a writer, who writes blogs, who makes money. Freelancer. He was doing very well during the pandemic and COVID. But once the economy opened, his business came down. And now with Chat GPT, he's facing kind of a crisis. He's having a problem. Okay. He's not getting as many customers as he used to get. So he was a little worried. Decided, okay, I'll take the service and I'll ask him. So we went through the basic stuff of his personal brand, positioning online. All that was done well. I didn't feel he needed to change anything. It was all done perfectly. But then it came down to the main reason. The main reason he felt is now he kept getting a creative block, a writer's block. I'm sure you must have heard about it. Oh, I have a mental block. I have a creative block. I'm not able to think creatively. And that also a guy who has been writing for so many years. So I was like, why do you say you're getting a creative block? He's saying, man, it's not like before. Before I used to be able to freely put my thoughts and I was able to write. But I don't know, what reason? And he gave a couple of reasons. He had a breakup in his relationship. He had a small accident that happened in between. He lost money in crypto. He was also investing in that. So he gave me a couple of reasons. I was listening to all those reasons. He also told me that he's under a lot of stress nowadays. Life is not working out the way. So finally, after listening, I finally told him, see, listen, I think I understand what is your problem. So he was like, oh, his eyes brightened up. Oh, you finally have my problem. And just imagine, he went to psychologist, psychiatrist. None of them were able to give him the answer that he wanted. In fact, the psychologists and psychiatrists, these people recommended medicines which kind of caused more harm than good. And he didn't like it. The same thing happened to me. When I went to psychiatrist and psychologist, they gave me these control tablets which made me become like a vegetable. If you want a video on this, it's a separate video. So it made me like a vegetable, and I was like, no bloody way. I was to sit like this, man. Just not move. It's like, hell with this. I'm not going to take these tablets. So I told this guy, I know what your problem is, but I'll have to break it down. He said, yeah, go ahead, give me. I said, number one is you came to know of this term, writer's block or creative block. And because you found a terminology, you're trying to give yourself an excuse that this exists. He got defensive. He's like, what do you mean excuse? I said, see, listen, just wait. Okay? I said, I'll give you a simple example. Me, until the age of 31, I didn't know a thing called ADHD existed. Because obviously internet was not there, social media was not there, nobody was talking about it. So I didn't know anything called ADHD existed. But after I went to the psychologist, the psychiatrist guy, he told me ADHD. And lo and behold, I thought I had cancer or a tumor in my brain. I thought I was going to die. And then I very happily took his tablets and control tablet that you get only through prescription. You don't get otherwise. And I started taking, and I became back to worse. So then I realized, bloody hell, man, this is nonsense. And then obviously I started to do my own research. I went for more therapy, went to coaches. I tried to find out, what is this ADHD? How do people control it? Are there people who have ADHD and have succeeded? Are there people who manage to overcome ADHD? Is ADHD in children? Is it in adults? I did a lot of research, extensive, and that took me years. Overall, finally I realized ADHD is there, but it's a term. And before people discovered this, before it was discovered, there was no such claim of ADHD. That means once they discovered a reason, everyone diagnosed with themselves with this reason. Before that, nobody did. So it was only after ADHD was discovered, they found cases. Before that, there was no ADHD. It never existed. So I say, same thing with you. Until you came to know there is a thing called creative block or mental block or writer's block or emotional block, until you found that out, you didn't suffer from this condition. Only after you came to know, you're like, oh, I suffer from this condition. So it's a self-imposed condition, I told him. Then he said, okay, then how do you explain I'm not able to write? I said, I'll give you the answer, it's coming. I said, so that is number one. You are trying to fit into a category because you discovered a category. That's number one. So you're making it a reality. Number two is, your problem is because you have years of experience in writing, you're constantly comparing yourself yesterday to today and projecting yourself in the future. So what you're doing is constantly comparing. Before, when you started your career, you maybe used to compare to other people, but you're like, oh, they are too good or whatever. I'll just do whatever I can. So that there was no pressure. You had given yourself permission to be imperfect. You allowed yourself to, like they say, no, it's okay to fail. It's okay to give your best, but not be the best. You were going with the flow, and it was okay to not be like absolutely number one. But after people started taking your services more and more, you made more and more money, you started becoming known, it got to your level, I need to be perfect. I need to be the best. I need to be worth this X amount of money that I'm getting. So you started aiming for perfection. And with that aim for perfection comes pressure. With that pressure comes stress. And with that stress comes inability to execute your tasks. I said, you need to go back to your roots, where it is okay to not be perfect, where it is okay to be less than the best, where it is okay to just go with the flow, where it is okay to be criticized, where it's okay to people to say, I was expecting much more from you. It's perfectly fine. But he said, Loy, my standards, the standards you have imposed on yourself. The person who is dealing with you may not know your standards. And if he does know your standards, just say, this is the best of what I can do. Let it be. Because what is important is the state of flow, allowing yourself. And then I gave him the example whereby I told him, there is no director, there is no actor, there is no singer who has had one hit after another hit after another. There's no artist who has got one Oscar after another Oscar after another Oscar or Grammy or award. Sometimes you get, sales of 1 million. Sometimes you'll get a sales of your new record 500,000. Sometimes you'll get 10 million. But you can't repeat the same. Like I gave him the example of Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style was the first ever YouTube or artist to get 1 billion views. Until that time, nobody in the history of mankind, in the history of YouTube, had crossed 1 billion views. Gangnam Style was the first. However, after worldwide fame and he became famous, that horse riding dance, where the whole world was, copying him. When he was given an interview many years later, he said, after that success, I got depressed. He's saying, because now here the challenge was, what do I do next that will beat this? That will cross 1 billion views, or that will at least match 1 billion views. There is nothing else I can say or do or execute that will even come close to it. And it was true. His next video that he came out with, I think Snoop Dogg, I think it achieved 500,000 or something. It didn't go up to that mark. Same thing happens with people like Neil Armstrong and all the people who have spent their entire lives in pursuit of one goal. After they have achieved that one goal, imagine Neil Armstrong, 10 years, 20 years of his life or 30 years of his life just for landing on the moon. After you've landed on the moon, now what do I do with my life? Because you're looking for that extraordinary goal. You're looking for that something which is worthwhile, getting up in the morning and fighting and trying to do it. That is why so many fighters, MMA fighters or artists, after they have achieved the pinnacle and then they retire, they go into a solid state of depression. And that's why then they end up with smoking, drinking, drugs, women, spending the money, blowing it on unwanted stuff, because they're trying to give themselves a thrill. Why do you think so many boxers and MMA fighters, they keep fighting even after the glory days are over? Because they miss the excitement, the adrenaline, the noise of the crowd, the attention, the money, the fame. They want that high once again, and they're never going to get it. Why do you think so many women who, after being in the spotlight, oh, they're so beautiful, they're so young, then once the viewership or fan base declines, then they try to put surgery because they have to compete with, they do their breasts, they do their body, they remain slim. And then again, they come up, they're happy. But when it declines, okay, how can I get attention? Then they collaborate with other people. They kiss ass, they go for networking events. When that does not work, then they go to, controversy like Sam Smith. They'll dress up with a rubbery suit, or they'll say, my new pronouns are they, them. They'll keep trying to keep themselves relevant. And then you end up with a case like Madonna, an icon of the 80s, a legend. She's destroying herself today, being at the age of being a grandma. She is still trying to show a face which looks like plastic because she has put so much of injection and so much of makeup and so much of surgery. She's showing herself in semi-nude or nude photographs. I mean, just imagine you're looking at a grandmother, yeah. Who the hell gets turned on by this? She's making a joke of herself and destroying her legacy. So I told this guy all these examples, and I told him, see, listen, you need to go with the flow. You need to go with the times. Your glory days were maybe at some point. Maybe you'll not achieve those glory days. Maybe you'll achieve something less. But it's okay to be not at that peak. Give your best, do your best, like an athlete. Maybe Usain Bolt was the fastest man alive at its peak, but now he will decline. Now if he tries to run with the new guys, he will maybe get only second place or third place, or maybe he'll not even qualify. With age, like Mike Tyson, if he goes back into the ring with the latest champions, he'll not survive, man. Age catches us all. So finally, my conclusion to him was simply this. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to be less than perfect. Don't put the pressure of always trying to be number one. Don't try to, compare yourself to before and put the pressure of the future. Be in the here and now. Allow yourself to, take things as they are. And it's better to come out with something less than perfect rather than something which is absolute masterpiece, because maybe in those less than perfect moments, there'll be the spark of perfection. There'll be the spark of something new. And, allow yourself to keep being a student where it's okay to go back to basics. Anyway, that is what I told him. I don't know how far he took my advice to heart or how far he agrees with me, but I've not been in touch with him after that. But I did give him the best advice that I felt helped me, at least. See, always remember, we, as human beings, we have our peak and then we decline. All human beings go through it. As small children, we grow up as young men, 20s, 30s, 40s, we reach our peak, 50s, and then we start declining towards 80s, 90s. You cannot be at your peak forever. You cannot keep climbing up forever. It's just not possible. Just like, sunrise, noon, sunset, and then night. It's a cycle. And we as human beings have one life cycle. So that is how life is. Anyway, I hope this video added some value to you guys, and I'll always tell you, don't aim for perfection. Don't try to be the best of the best of the best. That should be the goal. You should strive for it. But in the end, let something come out. Be in that state of flow where you allow yourself to come out with less than the perfect product or service. Because at least it is something other than nothing. And that's the same principle I follow with my videos. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Good, bad, ugly, let me know in the comments below. You guys take care. Me signing off.